家的明显提供就要的人，我的呢，所这边送提供下的了，来呢下巴是，这都蛮老上呢。
So first, those 9 stages of mindfulness. So the first one is called placement. So here the mind is placed on the object of meditation. And so, for example, we have mentioned various methods of shamatha practice, for example, shamatha with a focal object, where you use a Buddha's form, a Buddha's image as your object to focus on. And then you focus on that without distraction, single pointedly. So you place the mind on the object. That's the placement. The second step is called continuous placement. So that is to sustain this placement so the mind stays on the object continuously. So you continue to hold the mind there. Then number 3 is the kind of repeated placement. So the mind wanders and then it is quickly brought back. It is always brought back to the object through mindfulness. So you sustain mindfulness and bring the mind back to the object.
但呢，希望你晚教吧先，但你晚教是真正是，他就当，他在那多咱们那做工的话，他做工那样家，他在里边地方，每天在让自己那样，做提纲下下样那样，我说是希望做嘛去吧去呢，提纲下特别没从下这样子的。等我把等对吧西吧先，对吧西吧先，等于按自己的有天，那个他都成绩偏多这样的，有天前吧去呢，等那天去你们去特别。我真的，我这说什么都要去了，这来学啥的，这什么的有点的钱呢，这这边送呢，干些做行啊，这你们去都要没送去，我这了，我把听啥的，这主播的，我真的主播媳妇去吧是吧？主播媳妇去吧，媳妇去吧，这这的，那边这年轻人都这么多，但那边的呢，这个。把那边今年经对研究个话，能到在那解决，或者说给在那把的种的上呢，他那等于是等于是每天确实是把帮特别起呢，或者呢所以你们来讲下特别起吧，出现的是下课去呢把出现就是把先把它多特别吧，我听出去呢做下来的了，出国挺啥的。
And then number 4 is the close placement. So the mind stays on the object most of the time, but sometimes you get some thoughts arise and the mind is distracted, and then you bring the mind back to the object over and over again and again. And then number 5 is taming. So the mind becomes tamed and less distracted. And so here you recollect the benefits, the qualities of the state of meditative absorption, of samadhi. You think about the ultimate and the temporary benefits, and you continue to make an effort in taming the mind. And then you continue to make this effort with great joy and delight. The number 6 is pacifying. So distractions are further pacified. And so here you think about the faults, you understand the faults of distraction, you know that one thought leads to another and so forth. So understanding the faults of distraction, you continue to abandon anything that could obstruct your meditation, any unfavorable condition, and you keep bringing your mind back to the practice. So you're recognizing the negative condition and you're turning away from it.
他对吧？这你写那把的写法七八次，那把的写法七八次，那他这这几百的噻，他能多天错误那这别家但是错吧的过吧，这就穷松呢，在这里怕我行吧去，那他皮吃了点那怕这就推别讲的是因为可上拉人把这 别家的现在在出版忙不休情不呢，但我推了那破古面上的，目标情况用的名上推了个破古面上，开始种嘛，我才6年我去拿，我这就在热心特别点的把种才是洗出边，我才六，去呢，我的做家头边才六去安啥的。
And then number 7 is fully pacifying. And so that's quite similar. So again, whenever thoughts arise, you keep recognizing all of these distractions that arise. So for example, when your mind is very restless and there's many thoughts, you recognize that and then you apply an antidote to that. As you mentioned yesterday, for example, when there are many thoughts in the mind, we can visualize a black sphere below the cushion. Or if the mind is unclear and dull, you can visualize a white sphere at the point between your eyebrows. So you recognize each thought and then apply the appropriate antidote or method. And you continue to recognize the fault in the thought and you continue to clear all those thoughts away as they arise.
我这当他什么呢？这种光红对，他是白下汤包岗的西茶那嘛top的嘞，一把岗的有人那特别啊，可能你们俩讲的呀，空头特别好啥子，空头松，他结巴了就，开始那结巴去对，他别说西茶嘛过了这个，他工资说内容样的，我真的我真就有啥的，这国外那对才好，那么他我们西茶嘛过这，往是第 top 的嘞，然后新北面很多错，我们讲内容样，真就种在一起学啥的，对，国外这里对。
And so in each of these steps of shamatha, basically the mind becomes increasingly stable. So at the first step, the mind wanders a lot, and then in the second step, it wanders a little bit less, and so forth. So it wanders less and less. And now at the eighth, step number 8 is called single pointedness. And so here, the mind is fully concentrated and with not much effort, minimal effort. You don't need much more effort here. And then number 9 is a state of equanimity, where the mind really rests effortlessly and spontaneously. So there's not really any real meditation that is taking place. The mind just spontaneously rests with stability.
我真的，他是提出门的，在里面出版题门的，西法的七八吧，西法的七八，对吧？这是南巴的西法的七八，七八这这节七八，是吧？国外这两巴的叫法是，我到门听的，那要几月才了
？So then just the names of the last 4 ones. So the number 6 is pacifying, 7 is fully pacifying, 8 is single pointedness, and 9 is even or even resting or equanimity.
我真的他多不抽的嘞，这里多不抽的，可是现在主要多不抽过的是，图片多不是，300多不是，1000多不是，1000多不是，300多不是，GB多不是，这多不抽的。
GB多不是那个
GB是抽不着加 G 的嘞。
哦，okay. And then there are those 6 powers mentioned before that come from no shamatha. So there's the power of hearing, the power of reflection, the power of mindfulness, the power of introspection, the power of diligence, and the power of familiarization.
我的什么汤包的，但是在多的什么汤包的，图片多不点的，这什么叫图个嘞？是开始呢，什么叫把这个出来？是开始呢，没把它公样子先把它在那么着，这是拿来图呢，这点说说公家这了，但呢，这呢图片多不的，什么叫把这起图个嘞？是，我的你把，他300多不吧？300多的他你把它下来是什么具体叫把是？ 我军品要吧，他长保没怕的，拖啥的，这你们俩去用的军头讲特别样，别从其他的300多吧，这点的军头特别样，就样的300多钱，就回来是。
So those six powers, they lead to each of those 9 stages of shamatha. So the first one is the power of hearing, and so that leads to the first stage of placement. It's because you hear from someone higher, like your guru, and then like what to bring to mind, what to focus on, visualize, and then you place the mind there. So based on hearing, you place the mind. So that's the first one, placement. And the second one is the power of reflection, contemplation. And so here, this relates to the second step of shamatha, the continuous placement. So continuous placement is to continue to remain with the object, placed on the object. So this continuum of placement is related to the power of reflection or contemplation.
dine chenpe dobre, tiri da zumba de chenpe dobre wa. Chenpe dobre, tiri simne te lian de joba, de nyewan joba ni, tiri zumba de xiwa tini. Tiri chenpe dobre ji dan jobre res. Ta mikpa ma yin ba chi ne, chenpa chi ne. So kantub do chen xie si chi chi ne, wo de chenpe dobre ji go res, mikpa yin ju yo ma res, me yin ba chi.
And then the third power is the power of mindfulness, and so that arises from the third and the fourth shamatha practice. So the repeated placement and the close placement. So here you continue to place the mind on the object, and you keep bringing the mind back to the object, and that then generates the power of mindfulness.
dine da xiwa de xie ji dobre wa. Xie ji dobre chi de simne te nga ba de chukwa tini, chub de xio zar wa. Da nga ba chukwa ri ma te ri, da nga ba duwar chi ba se, xiwa chi ba se, tini bo chub xio ri se. De nam to zu de, nyong mo zu jie na de ba xiwa chi ba. Xie ji dian da xian chu xio de ha ku bro wa. Te ri rai ne, dine te ki nye me te ha ku ne, xian chu me chu ba. Chu wa me tong wa. Wa te la xie ji dobre. Te chi to ke yes.
And then the fourth power is the power of introspection that arises from the fifth and the sixth step. So that is taming and pacifying. So in taming and pacifying, the thoughts and afflictive emotions as they arise, they become tamed and then further pacified. And then through that, you develop an introspection that recognizes an alertness that recognizes when the mind proliferates many thoughts, and then it sees those their faults, and it pacifies, it tames those thoughts. And so from this arises then the power of introspection.
dine da nga ba zong zhi dobre wa. Zong zhi dobre di ki simne kare chukpa de dunpa de chuk xio sare. Ma re dunpa de jeba nir wa. dine nambar shivar chi ba se, ze je chi ba se, tini mo drop de gure es. Da nam to de nyong mo kare na de tang tu me ne, be cong chen ne de, qing gu zu hua ju me chu de, yang te zong zhi go es da, zong zhi te zo de, da nga zo jie tang zong zhi go ge wa, nyam lan qi ya, zo de chen be ki zong zhi de, ma mo go xio sare. 全把研究呀，这是讲了解的话，全些专注之前呢，我这等于自己源头那图表，我听着没从起过的众多。
And then the fifth power, the power of diligence, comes from the 7th and the 8th step of shamatha. So that is fully pacifying, and single pointedness. And so in those 2 steps, whatever thoughts and afflictive emotions arise, and you do not pursue them, you do not entertain these thoughts, and you are able to do so because you're making an effort. You're still making an effort, you're diligent. And so here the key point is diligence. And so generally we do need to practice with diligence, but the main diligence that we need is the diligence in mindfulness. And that's also very difficult. So we need to make an effort here to sustain a continuum of mindfulness or meditative absorption or concentration.
tene dati chuba den jibe dobra, jibe dobde, dati simne guba nyambar joba se chobgres. Tenge ma nyamlan chi de son ji ne, te kombe dobje de, kom top chimbo yora kombe chog chi ne, tene zunru shira me go de tenge zin jo tubya.
And then last is the power of familiarization, and that is connected to the last step of shamatha, the equanimity. And so then when you continue to evenly rest, eventually it becomes effortless. So there's no more need to make a deliberate effort of being diligent. Then you just naturally stay in samadhi.
다 zumba de zeri, zumba zo da tambo de simne gu, niba de da ze top chou, da de zumba de ka la song yiji xie xie ma de xie la song. De qi du tene da yiji gu de simne gu le da jar gu xia la simne gu de. Di re re la tambo de ka re jam de jo ba se, rikwa jam de pan ju ya. Tene niba de qi jin jo ba se. Zumba ne de qie ba me ban jo ba.
Chigi chupa kare. Chigi chupa.
tambo jam de jo ba rikwa jam jo gu ro.
Chigi chupa kare.
Jo se ne pa nyam na ga.
Kare chigi chupa.
Chi jing, chi su ro.
Ti kare
Samsa
chigi.
nyam na chi ma to pa chi ro
네,
za
치,
la.
아니, 디치. 나
Ta pa
탁탁
ro chi.
끊으면 돼. 나 이게 민다.
pa ta pa ro chi song de na yi. Chi jing jo ba ro. Che ba mi ba jo ba. Tai song ya. Te lun ro jo ba se. Jo ba xie yo ro. Yi ji xie se de. ta di tangbo jam de jo ba de ta simne tangbo ni ga la. Tangbo ni bo ti ga la. Jam de jo go de se. Be song qin bo jin rikwa jam go de se. Ta jam de jo ba. tene ti farka tara ta nipa ne dunba war se te simne nga de chi jin jo ka de jam de jo ba tene chi jin jo ba ta singe se yurung
같이 가는 니바네 담보도 니바 말해.
tambo nipa ni ro tere somba ne dunba
손바네라.
war dunba war nga ro simne nga de chi jin jo ba ta singe se yurung bo jang to ko ma re se被切西当用的是，我的期间就把是，但是呢，这把他后来切板没办就把是，这是有人讲投票的话，切板没办就嘛，在国外他在很多就把是嘛，在拉松啊，在这是的，别从超过没过，但是可定个是让手这是我们的两个，切板没办就把，推超板就把是，嘛在推超板就把是。这里是但是这当我的已经写是点啥嘞？我当时那个那他说啥嘞？这当你们俩去的，这当等俺做的，你们俩去长波队的是干来有了的，可是俺做的给我忙不拉不上。
So then, so this were the 9 steps of shamatha and the 6 powers, and so there were 4, which are actually like deliberations. So there are 4 deliberations, and so they all also relate to the 9 steps of shamatha. And so the first one is called the focusing. Second one is called kind of a focused deliberation for me, or kind of mental engagement. And then the second one is called interrupted mental placement. And then the third one is the kind of extraordinary, like kind of special mental placement. And then the fourth one is the spontaneous placement. And so those relate to the 9 steps of shamatha. And so the first one, the focus placement, relates to the first 2 of shamatha, the placement and the continuous placement. And then the second one, which is the interrupted placement, that is from number 3 to number 7, so those 5. And so during that time, one's concentration is interrupted. So one is not able to stay continuously concentrated, but there's interruption. So it's interrupted placement. And then the third one, kind of the extraordinary special placement, is number 8, the single pointedness. And then the spontaneous placement is number 9, equanimity. So there's no more effort involved. And so, as you mentioned during the teachings, now in the beginning, we do need to make an effort in the practice.
다 된주인 사례 되네. 대 거기 리모트 지형도 랑보前中在是랑보前中 리모트 지형但go这就simnet go 前中在下是吧这是么子样着三在下是吧这是랑보前这当咱接上前面3中咱先学起不来랑보前这这看到哪破在情万中在下是的情万中是吧看到哪破的这呢的당보 디비제 티로 쇼다. 이제 남도 초차나. 가르쳐 교 디비제 남기 자체 랍셔서와. 어ත네 다티난 차와제 요로와다 데 공장에 들어와데 작시세 있어요. 세트시에 코쇼서 어디 작시세. 세이나다 저와 당보 디사메 제마라 루디 그리고 되게라 제게 지토 교사마와. 대치이되네. 제 야리아 손데 남보체 까테디 소리야. 까보티 당보디 가로요 말. 제 야리아 손데 까테디 소리와. 제 까테디 디 스타텐 사리. 디 스팅인 스제트 야. 요로.
Yeah.
대 당보디 라. 되다.
So there's this image, like an analogy of those 9 steps of shamatha. And so there's this image of the elephant and the monkey, and then someone like a monk trying to catch or tame the elephant. And so in the beginning of that image, you have the monkey kind of leading the way. The monkey represents agitation, the mind of no agitation, and then the color in the image in the beginning is more black, and so that represents the state of mental dullness and a lack of clarity. And so then as the pictures goes on from step to step, and so first there is this monk trying to catch the elephant, but in the beginning he's sort of a bit left behind, but then eventually he catches up, and also the image getting whiter and whiter, and so kind of the process of the monk catching the elephant and taming the element and freeing it from the monkey control. And so as it gets wider and wider, samadhi or concentration develops further and further.
但是这个这多，这个这样情况沉默怎么送学生？在情况沉默有了，怎么送学生？这样的他可以那么，他压力送对在浪波去，的这个嘛接六个的在浪波去的，看到各路那压力强着个吧，在光头都送的，现在在浪波去的，看到什么各路强，吃饭的。浪波去刚兄弟的那种，在我们从在网头的一个像可以说是吧？这样他们对这个经验就这个浪波去看到那过去那个路去有么少的情况，出过的情况，我管都忙不用，我们家的这个里有多大人啥的，但他妈的我们也不在，相对的呢，对么的，等于下后子浪波去看到个路去，吃饭的刚兄弟的那种的，我们家那样子讲，在我们内地的可以说啥的。
And then there's Ribong Yoruba. Wait. Ribong Yoruba dinala. Hello? Ribong Yoruba dinala. Yeah. There's also a rabbit in the image, and the rabbit represents the very subtle dullness, lack of clarity. And so the image begins with the elephant being more black and being led by the monkey, and then the monk trying to tame the elephant is sort of behind. That's the picture. And then as it progresses, as it progresses, then the elephant becomes increasingly white, and the monk catches up, and then eventually the monkey is left behind. And then in the end, the elephant is completely white, and the monkey is totally left behind. And the monk is riding on top of the elephant. And so that's the sign that now the mind has been tamed, has been brought under control, and now meditation is left effortless. So in the beginning, it requires some effort. Meditation is not so easy, it's more difficult, but in the end, once the mind is tamed, it becomes effortless.
that's that's some man ya go chi to ya re ba yo de ta mix xue ya jian men dan ga be cha de ca song de ne da san ni ga zo kong se ji dang sa gan de be ci ba sang jin chung ne ce jun ga sang ji de什么zo lo da ba ze qiu jing da qi xiu lo ba de qi de ne ji dang sang ji kai xie ci ba de chung le dan ji dian song gong da gan ma ba gun ling kai xie de da sang lo sa zo ci ba ji le song do
Dang lo zang.
大仓罗才写进多，你妈几百现在的户。
소금민들이 닥달로자.
아까만 봐 근데开些 제바다开些 랑정도 제데 좀바로 제바 매초도 제等几天同步几天中国中是吧？我提了大仓罗才写进多。我他说去自己的这中多。我几天中国提呢提推些，我推些的课上也写不着那套什么推些，的出版写进多提呢了，等那写把几的家破中把你么东把个当。我查这写了东，然后现在你都先别来过嘛，但几天中国提个我查这个中多。我查这个是，推些你去的多，我那些才开心不在，我查这个才开心不着啊，可是呢，工作是南北这边过手样的。所以我在这家里我查这呢，我提起的我这种多，我的推荐写在这档是上级被推荐着，这档Saga Dawa被推荐的，我全国推荐的，他把推荐的，这全球推荐的都在，全球推荐是我做黄带汤补呢这个的话，这档的Saga Dawa的黄带写完了话，在那全国推荐的黄带出版了话，就被撤写了。我在那他把推荐的黄大国才你了哇，群体推荐的大家当上去，在七八届呢，群黄大汤补七八届呢，就嘛把群体电话啥都没来，这个啥群体推荐的我让对黄大汤补那子学了，群体推荐的，我推荐写在了哇，这当推荐忙不要紧，这经常做我在推荐写了哇，我在这我做推荐。个当呢，但是上节你我才不中啊，这个就去搞了了。我这期的他路当看了目前那片，要不轻松的呢，但是那上你们这样做工程当个，但是上你工程去，那你很工作，这工个就那样了吧。
And so this completes the teachings on this text, and I hope that all of your practice will go well. So now we have this annual tradition of holding Saga Dawa teachings, because it's a time where many different holy days are coming together. So on the 15th of the day, the Buddha was born, and then this got Seba Dun dan Gela.
开些给他忙不在给他丢那冲来了个吧。
Dun the Torah,
这几天中国的这开些来嘛，都是几冲来是。
Yeah, so some say that many say that the Buddha was born on the 7th day of the Sakadava month. But then there's a few who say that he was born on the 8th day. For example, Chikden Sumgyun said that, and also a few of the previous Karmapas like the third Karmapa Rangchung Dorje, or the eighth Karmapa Mingyo Dorje, and also one called Taktsang Lotsawa, great scholar. So they said that Buddha was born on the eighth day. And also on the eighth day, the Buddha cut his own hair to ordain himself.
我等今天中午中午的，他的
Mm.
炸鸡的，他推荐当把的炸鸡的，是我的，先把他说买的，他中间。
And so the one who said that is Lord Jigten Sumgön. So nobody else actually said that he cut his hair on the eighth day, but Jigten Sumgön said on the eighth day of the month, the Buddha not only was born, but he also on that same day he cut his hair. And this is really significant because this is really sort of the beginning of the Buddhist tradition. And so we have two special occasions on one day, which makes the day even more special. And so we mentioned there is those four holy days. So there is the Buddha's enlightenment during the Saga Dawa, which is during the fourth Tibetan month, which is now. And then there's also the turning of the wheel turning day, the Chukho Dujin. And this is in the sixth Tibetan month, on the fourth day. And then there's the Hlaba Tuchen, which is the descent from heaven, the holy day. And that is in the ninth Tibetan month, on the second day. And then there's the Tromtrul Tuchen, which is the month of miracles. And that's in the beginning of the Tibetan New Year. So that's in the first Tibetan month from day 1 to day 15. So the first 15 days of the first Tibetan month. And so these are the main holy days. And there's, of course, other holy days, but these are the most important ones. And so now we have held our annual teachings during the time when the Buddha was born and attained enlightenment. And then also we are very, very happy that Ken Rinpoche is here and he's going to teach. So tomorrow we will have a day off, and then the day after tomorrow Ken Rinpoche is going to teach.
等呢，他就当我做参观的为，确实呢，亲他罗忙不着查的，他罗前面多的罗就罗查的就这些嘛，就一送罗查的，当我那来那罗就人多。我等罗查的，他在马起的他话是的，我等他罗他要不从的呢。 산이 나니다 걔는 뭐 가지고 나도 종교는 거기 막 와대 야보러 와 제는 뭐 뒤서나 강도도 패나러 와.
And so we are holding these Sakadava teachings every year. And it's been many years already that we've held these teachings. I don't remember exactly how many, but maybe something like 12 years. I've been here 17 or 18 or so years. So for about 12 years or so, we have always held these teachings every year without interruption. And this year's teachings have turned out really excellent. And then day after tomorrow, Ken Rinpoche is going to teach, and he also doesn't need a translator, which is also wonderful. So if you have time, please come and listen to the teachings.
Oh yeah, then that's right.
Okay, so let's see if there's one more in the chat. In Jigten Sumgön's view, what is the root of samsara? What obscures a Shravaka Arhat from attaining full Buddhahood? Isn't it kind of two questions, I think, right? Do you need it? Jigten Sumgön gitawala korva nyamdolam korva gitawa kareris Beni da chomba nientula then so sangi matupa gumten to kareris. Da konso it's parche da ra konso sangi marira.
다들 이제 그냥 성공 그다 코르발은 코르스 코르 코르베전 소르니 코르와 이세 이제 성공이 대성으로 하다다 공체나 이나 저 당지를 로 코르베전 소 신바도 샘 코르그레스 우로 이제 성공 르 코르그레스 그래서 그래서 루테 화도강라 이루제 요레스 어디랑 작다 모습 쇼네 드루트 제바지 말냐 디루지 막 걸로 그랬어 소래 어때네 소다 그런 참여 당지죠这年头上上街都是在公车呢，提拔七穷七八甚至一种的，提拔七穷七八甚至一，对对，讲究现在民那上街图票什么哇，我真正的下的有什么嘞的深度，这当我做的别家开心那有了，这年头就是上街各种图亲戚拉，那真的讲究现在呢，这上街的在拉票了哇。可是那天，他是年头是说，等于在小那个上街去顾客，突看的我这说呢，年头是等于在做西巴去。我在那上街过我时间，送给他前两天，咱们咱们养他吧，这妈的这提把钱不咱们小呢，这年都是提把钱不咱们小呢，说啥这把讲这上街给的是哪个了吧？
So regarding Jigten Sumgön's view on the root of samsara, so he explained that in the Gongchik, and he said, what wanders in samsara, that which wanders in samsara is actually the body. And so he said that because in refutation to what others say, because others generally say that it's the mind that wanders in samsara, but Jigten Sumgön says it's the body that wanders in samsara, because first mainly it comes down to self-grasping, but it's the grasping at the body. So in the bardo, we have a mental body, and that mental body develops attachment, hatred, and ignorance. And these then lead us to take birth in another body. So it's the body is wandering in samsara because of self-grasping. And then regarding the Shravakas, and so it is also said in the Gongshik that the difference between the vehicles, the yanas, is the mind generation, or is bodhicitta. So if one doesn't give rise to bodhicitta, one cannot attain enlightenment. And there are some scriptures that do actually speak about the enlightenment of the Shravakas, eventual enlightenment. So the Shravakas, they dwell in a state of samadhi. And then eventually from the Buddha's heart, light radiates, and the light then awakens them from their samadhi. And then they see the form of the Buddha directly. And then the Buddha tells them, you are not on the authentic path. You have to enter the Mahayana path. And then that's what they do. And then they accumulate merit and purify obscurations. And then eventually they do attain enlightenment.
真的在苦乐间做轮苦的时候，这当泡沫之外个光怕的，泡沫之外个你妈在光桥这块落对，到光桥这块有了，天哪，他就送的都是。
Sinällä tinä sungi tuossa.
到光桥这边呢，他就送的都是。
And so this quote that it's the body that wanders in the ocean of samsara. So it's in the Gongji Pachiten Sungen, but it was first actually spoken by Pagmodrupa, and so it's Pagmodrupa's intent. And he got it from when he was giving a teaching on a sutra called the dense array of jewels.
That's it.
Or piled up jewels, something like that. Okay, then should I go to a chat question? That's
okay.
I had a Dharma friend struggling with having to stop practice to go to work and finding work meaningless and full of consumerism and attachment. Can you give advice on mixing the daily activities with meditation and how to keep our minds when we are working? So, tirati moradromo chitok. 단 냠내시라 제 마토바 자서 뭐 냠내 젠데 요리 제 마토바 가인스는 내가 제고 그도 다 이네 가디 내가 되시라 가보에서 말이시라 전다 방법 야보 통고에서 말아 이미 내가 되 전다시라 통고에서 말아 이니 미 참마다 베직 간나리 작바만 보여라 디니 디 담인다 고고여리 디니 뚜차만 보여 디 여러 바틴다고 이 참마 총가바 갱갱 여러 바 총갑 상겨리 디니 Deni di da chulam deni kom khandes 这个
我这这里也在学音吧，俺们这边来的吧，农村东西这个用的是的，起码都这意思啦，学音吧。我真的让我去就嘛的是，那个去过的是，那个去，那个嘛就那俺家都出来几个话，他来了有嘛的是，俺那个去，那个学了你们的是差不多，才去，这那个去那个三八上步头你们的话，三八上步看去，那的你们的这三八上那啥当那样啥子，三八上步强调性，什么讲规矩头把的学什么来的别个，三八上步的强调性的是。什么规矩头把的学中多，这三八上步进，这讲究三年来强调说，然后没那里别中多啊，我天对，天对今天我都什么都没，然后在咱可说帮东西，这也帮嘛，这这里没那里别，我把经济做这个，我做等比这一把等着强那也我有嘛的是。
So we talked about that before. There was this example about that we can't really practice like Milarepa. We might feel a little renunciation and then really want to practice, but then later we might regret it again. So that's definitely not what we should do. And you have to work, you have to go to work because you need to make a living. And it's not easy. And so you have to work. And then do your practice as much as you can. But while you're at work, have a good intention, a good motivation. And that's really practice then. Is that if the motivation is good, then the path and the bhumis will be good. And also Milarepa said, may all sentient beings find the perfect motivation, and that is the motivation of bodhicitta. So it's not so good to abandon all worldly activities and then maybe later regret it and blame Milarepa for it.
我真的推说穷你们来看多去，真人家这压力啊，在路在做那个地方在其他没来讲，但你们来忙系统呀，听着有个话，他的路穷人的这些呢，这些你们来忙那个这系统呢，忙把你们来系统呀，忙一种周给的什么的。
So now, while you're working, just try to practice as much as you can whenever you have time, and also later on, when you don't have to work so much anymore, then you can do more practice. But now, when you're still younger, it's good to work, because then you're also kind of preparing a foundation for your future practice.
真的，这吧，对。
Yes, there's one more. Is it important to determine whether we are meditating merely on the conventional nature of mind, clear and aware, versus the mind's ultimate empty nature? Can we confuse the former for the latter? Dini gom jabe kapla, dini ta ti kunsop ki sem yorwa. Ina kunsop ki sem tiang tenshi e yusi gira kunsop ki sem di tamma ba ki sem di dis tenshi dis sem sarbo rikpa sarbo chi yongi yorwa. Di tang dini thön tam pe sem dongba ni ki rangshin di shishna choksi gira. Di kare kunsop gore kare yang da bari kanda sako gore.
但你们来去的工作做什家有啥嘛的？工作什么做什在他嘛的，现在有了没？工作什么有啥嘛的？是为什么呢？他把的嘛的把什提，嘛的他没课上学吧，就是没来的开这种的，南就啊已经那些的，嘛套头呢嘛的的，来牛蒙古的些产意思，我在咱嘛套头的话，到那的一些的，各不用天做办公室，我课上学吧。 어차피 전에 구상 뭐남나 테니를 돼 상제대 말에 있으면 그걸 장제 혀로 어떤 놈에서 또 마토면서 다 군소다 통담세 요사 말에 돼 배제 요사 말에 다 소제 샘도나 뭐 통담배 뭐 도거로 왔다 마토나 다다 이제 소어든 남시에도 이게 세 예완세도 어떤 남시에 강제 这说了，等于那，但我说，咱们1万岁，就当1万岁嘛，是工作同当他1万没岁的样子。这工作同当没1万岁了，其实这是的，我同我那说，这里把咱们去，真的咱们去，咱们怕这说咱什么说，他说都同他把多给的什么样子，他的我抽嘛的，实在说的咱咱的，刚才咱们刚头讲的，讲过同着呀，有几嘛的事了。
So, and so, as it, so Drupal says there, to him, he doesn't think that there is this conventional nature of the mind that is clear and aware. There's just either the mind is pure or impure. Yesterday we mentioned this song by Miller Ripper that when the moving mind, the moving consciousness, when the inner moving consciousness is unrealized, it is the basis for all karmas and afflictive emotions and suffering. When it is realized, it is self-knowing primordial awareness, and all good qualities come from it. Or we mentioned the Samantabhadra prayer, where it says, when you recognize it, you are a Buddha. Not recognizing it, you are a sentient being wandering in samsara. So in terms of the nature of mind, it's not like a conventional and the ultimate nature of the mind. It's just a question of realizing the real nature of your mind or not. And when you realize the nature of your mind, then that's the ultimate nature of the mind. When you don't realize the nature of the mind, we call that the consciousness or dualistic consciousness. We often call it either that dualistic consciousness or the primordial wisdom or primordial awareness. But so anyways, Drupal said it's better maybe not to think too much about it, not to think is it conventional, is it ultimate nature of the mind? Because if you think in these in these terms and different divisions, it's sorry, it's only going to confuse you. It's just making things very complicated. Just do the practice. Purify your mind of all the defilements in the mind, and as a result of that, you will see the ultimate nature of the mind. So it's better not to get too complex about what the relative nature of the mind is, and that, and or worry about mixing it up. Just purify your mind, and you will see the true nature of the mind.
어තර에데 리브드만 저거 라이망에 그다음 이 휴트 저와나스 녀몬 동에 똑바 제샤량스 무스 제초 러이 조메죠 서와다 녀몬 동에 똑바
Pero
가이샤나
nga titingnan longden so ngala lo lamento tikyo po sung yit yit totumare.
데다 이 휴트 저와나스
Mhm.
녀몬 동에 똑바 제샤량스 녀몬 동에 똑바 가래 샤다나와
Mhm.
무스 제초 러이 조메요 무스 수고 말레스 제조 말레스 무스 제초 러이 조메 러이 조 말레스 냠냐 쳔바 많이 와 장고레스 무스 제초 러이 조메요 저와 랑사 샤바 초크 토르스 저와 랑사 샤샤는 냠냐 강 샤디나 초크 토르스 와데 나이데 냠냐 체디데 다 군접 통다 예바 마세는 이렇게 사리 초크 토르는 통다 내려 또 안으로
And as we mentioned in that prayer, the 7 chapters prayer before, when the mind is moving, when things appear in your mind, whether it is a thought or an emotion, whatever arises in the mind, and neither pursue it nor reject it. Just continue your meditation without distraction. Then when all mental movements settle in themselves, you become liberated in the Dharmakaya. And when you become liberated in the Dharmakaya, that is when you realize the ultimate nature of the mind. And then it's really not necessary to make any divisions of the kind of conventional and ultimate.
어떤 다시 완도에
Not in the middle, in the chat.
장 쳐봐줘요.
Okay. Do you have a question?
Just quick, short, easy one. To develop shamatha, can we do Tonglen, or is Tonglen more vipassana, or is it neither of the two?
Die Schiene Gongona, der Donglen Gong, die Schiene Gongona Donglen Chogere, da Donglen the Schiene Legere, Yana Donglen die Langton der war Yori.
享受相当，凝结着吧，是吧？从来是凝结的享受相当，是吧？那他当然的享受相当，咱们这个心灵上动，这心灵上动都要谈着，是吧？谈着，你当然的，咱做的 做强求sem接样中，做的强你节点东南特切多，我的强求sem做接样中，我的强求sem接呢，工作强求sem接呢，的东南强求sem接个我天就做多样中，其实我做的东南的。现在上东西，但是这里做纪律的现在上，别讲下面喜欢在东南港这些的，现在这之外用这个吧。
And so the practice of Donglen is more connected to cultivating love and compassion and bodhicitta. And in that sense, it also can become a method for ultimately accomplishing shamatha and vipassana. But Donglen is a way to cultivate bodhicitta, and so then from the conventional bodhicitta, the ultimate bodhicitta arises. And so one can also see it in this way, that when Donglen becomes single-pointed, it could also become a shamatha practice.
真的吃吧，有点大，对吧？
Any other questions?
然后他吃完没那下说，他这个都他那个上去，我真的上嘛这些天的学，真的个做，但我没能得起。
And then Dashidele to everyone, and we will now dedicate.
Okay, Elizabeth, can you start? I'd like to thank you, Jupanla, so much for these teachings. We really appreciate your patience and all your experience and teaching us many times about meditation. We still need more lessons, so thank you for continuing to do that. And thank you, Ina. We appreciate you translating for us. It's just indispensable. We love you so much. Thank you, Ina.
You too.
Thank you.
And thank you to our Mexican Sangha, nuestros hermanas in Mexico. Gracias para estudiar con nosotros. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Gracias.
I'd like to say thank you especially to Ani Tanzan for all the work that she does for our center, inside, outside, kitchen, upstairs, downstairs, driving, all the things for Anila. Thank you so much. And thank you for our volunteers, Tilin and Xianru, for helping so much in the kitchen and with tea, and for our meal donors,